What's up, everybody? This is John from Vintage Watch Hunter here again today with you. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about watch polishing and over polishing specifically. This is something that we see with a lot of vintage watches, and it has a very negative effect on the value and collectability of your watch. And I thought we would talk a little bit about that today and why that is and why people want to have a watch that is not polished or not over polished and is in as original condition as possible. So let's get going. All right, so first off, what is watch polishing? Well, watch polishing is the act of combining a paste, which I have here, some kind of paste, all right, so or a rouge, okay, some kind of paste or rouge, like an activator, with heat and a pad, all right? And these three things will allow you to shape and remove metal from a watch case, polishing it. So this is the fundamental idea of polishing, and polishing to an extent is acceptable in the watch world with watch collectors and the watch community. However, if the polish is not done correctly, or if your watch has been over polished, then it will very drastically affect the value of your watch, and we want to make sure that this does not happen, or that you do not purchase any watches that are heavily over polished. Now, there are a lot of examples online, especially on eBay. One seller comes to mind when I think about their store. All of their watches are highly polished, and I know as a watch dealer myself that those watches, when they first came out, when they first were produced, they were not highly polished. They had different polishes, different types of polishes on different surfaces of the case, and so I know that this company is trying to sell watches to people who are not really collectors because they don't know what the watch should look like or what the proper surface of the watch should be. Historically, we see watch polishing in a lot of watches from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So this was a time when whenever you sent your watch for servicing by the manufacturer, could be Rolex, could be IWC, could be Jaeger, could be Seiko, it doesn't really matter. Whoever you sent your watch to, one way for them to boost their revenues was to actually offer additional services besides servicing the movements, which was actually to polish the case, replace the dial, replace the hands, polish the bracelets. Whatever it was, those were ways for companies to add additional revenue after they had already sold, their watches initially. So what you find on a lot of vintage pieces are a lot of watches that they don't look right. Some of them have really old dials, lots of patina. The lume has kind of started to fade away, but the hands and maybe the chronograph hands look brand new. And that is probably because at one point it was sent to a watchmaker or the manufacturer, and during the servicing process, they changed those hands over to make the watch look a little bit better and to create revenue for themselves. So now, in current time, right? So right now in 2019, it is not a good idea, or it's not very popular to have a watch that has had hands or dials replaced, or any part of the case polished. You want your watch to look as original as possible, because vintage pieces, they only look like that once in their life, and if you replace the parts and you replace or you polish the case, then you end up with a watch that is not original or not as authentic as it could be. So that will, of course, decrease the price and decrease the collectability with people in the watch community. So this is how you can tell for watches that have been over polished. One way to do it is to look at other reference material, examples, other photos online, especially from reputable dealers where you know they would, or you would hope that they would not sell a watch that has been over polished, or where the polishing on the case has been changed. But this is how you can tell if a watch has been over polished. So you'll often see over polishing in the lines of the case and the lugs themselves. The lines that were once sharp may be rounded or finished in a surface that is really unlike the original example. Also, on the case back, you may see that the stamping has faded or is missing altogether, right? So that is a sign that someone has polished off too much of the metal to kind of decrease the surface or the indentations where the lug has been, or excuse me, where the case has been stamped. All right, so let's take a look at some examples more closely so you can see what I mean by polishing or over polishing. Okay, so the first set of watches that we're going to look at in more detail is the 6138-0011 Seiko Yachtman UFO watch. So here we have two different examples, one in my left hand, one in my right, and obviously it is quite obvious to anyone who is watching that the cases are quite a bit different. So if you were looking at these, which one would you say has the original case finish? Let's put these together. You can see, we'll turn them here for you. All right, keep going, different sides. So if you said the one on the left, you are correct. This is the one with the original case finish, and the one on the right is the one that has been polished. Now, as I said earlier, you can see that something has been polished because the case lines have been removed. Well, if you look on the side here, you see kind of it's all been rounded off. And when you look at this example, you can kind of see some definition there. This is not really the greatest example to look at because it is a rounder case, but you can see that there is a clear line, or there are three areas of polishing on this watch. There's the top, the side, and then the bottom here that is high polish, right? Whereas this one is kind of all over the place. And what they've done is they've gotten rid of the case finishing, the brushing, and they have over polished all of that away. So this will affect, obviously, the price of this watch. And so the collectability of this watch will go down slightly simply because of how this case was polished. So again, that is our first example. You can see that the original case finish here is brushed on top. You can see the striations there of the original finishing. And you can also see the case lines on this watch completely. Now the backs of this watch I think are not that badly over polished, or the other one is not badly over polished, but you can see here the top of the Seiko where the stamping is, where it moves over to the side of the case back. See how sharp that is? It's a nice sharp movement from the top to the side. Okay, so that's a 6138-0011 or 10 or 12, whatever you want to call it. Now let's get to the next watch. All right, so here we are with the next watch we're going to look at in detail is the 5126 Seiko Rally Diver from the mid-1970s. And as you can see here, our two watches have a different type of polishing on the case top, and as we'll see around the sides as well. So again, what we're going to look at or look for is for nice sharp case lines, for the correct polishing surface on the case and the lugs, and we're going to make sure everything is consistent around the watch. Okay, so here we go. So again, if you were to say which one of these has an original case polish, which one would you say? Would it be the one on the left or the one on the right? Okay, so I'm just going to show off the one here on the right first, and we'll take a look at this guy. Nice go around the watch slowly. So we can see there are some lines here still on the case, right? So Seiko, I think, had a lot of these type of cases where there were 3 levels. Shouldn't be touching the watch with this, but 3 levels here on the top, kind of this little intermittent side, and then this side here on the case. So you'll see different types of polishing on older Seikos from these different surfaces of the watch. So we'll just go all the way around the watch here. You can see it in detail. And as you can tell, this watch looks quite a bit different than the other one we have, okay? So we'll put that one down on the side, and then we'll pick up our other one and we'll take a look at this guy. So quite a bit different already. This one, instead of being high polished on the top, has a nice brushed finish. And if we move on to the side, you will see a very sharp case line here, right? Moving from the top of the case to that intermittent side over to the actual side of the case. And also here on the case, you'll see nice sharp lines between the lug section and the case top. Okay. So if you were to look at both of these, Which one would you say has been polished or over polished, right? If you said the right, you are correct. So again, it seems that we're running into a theme here with Seikos where the tops of the case are not polished, followed by a polish on the side, and then some type of finish, either polished or not, on the lower portion of the side, right? The intermittent and then the lower portion of the side. So yeah, so taking a look at these again, you can see that one has been polished on top. And also, if we look at the case lines on the side here, you can see how sharp that edge is, right? If you want to take a look at the original one, the edge on the side here is very sharp. And when we come over to the one that has been polished, it's definitely rounder, right? So that lower line right here, the lower line, is not as sharp or as clean as the watch that has not been polished. And this is really what you want to look for. This can be very tricky because some sellers try to hide these lines with pictures and so forth and so on. But you have to be a determined buyer and look for these type of things. So again, look at that. Look at the line on the case, or excuse me, on the lug right there, going into the corner. Look how sharp that line is, right? That is an original line. And if you look on the one on the right, where is that line? It is pretty much gone. So that is another piece of evidence to say, hey, this watch has been polished or over polished. And this one is not too clear on the back like our last example. These two are both pretty solid on the case back. You can kind of see the one on the right here. The stamping is a little bit thinner than the one on the left. So we have a little bit of a deeper polish on the one on the left here. But the sharpness around the top of the case back as it goes over to the side is not as deliberate as the one that we saw on the last example, though it is there. Be careful, watch out for over polishing. Please like and subscribe this video for more really great content. I would love to produce some more videos for you in the future. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. And that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, congratulations. Please like and subscribe below. That would really help us out so we can make more of these videos for you in the future. If you do have any watches or collections that you are looking to sell, if you are a reseller or a wholesaler, please get a hold of me. I would be happy to speak to you, talk business, even buy a lot of watches. So, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and we'll see you on the next one.